Yep. Hello. It's 19th of November, 2025, and our talk today is about the social media fuck up. I picked this piece to discuss because we've been plagued by social media now for almost 2 decades, or a bit more than 2 decades. Why is it that governments are not reading them the right out? We've a lot of factual evidence of the poor behavior of this media framework that is stopping us from being able to fix it. So social media has an enormous role. It can democratize the delivery of information and news. The news media has been decimated by this alternate form of media delivery now for 28 years. 1997 was probably the first when 6 Degree launched, allowing users to create profiles and friend lists. ICQ and AOL Instant Messenger. I used ICQ in those days, in 1999, popularized instant messaging. 2003 MySpace, I never got onto MySpace, offered profile customization, becoming a major social media site. 2004 Facebook was founded to chase girls, as Con previously said, by college students before opening into the public. 2005 YouTube was founded, described as the first organized video streaming, and we are going to be on YouTube. This is where I'm streaming to you today. 2026, Twitter was launched, added real-time communication element to social media. So, with our human predilections in fakery and AI creating indistinguishable alternate fictions, let us add in predatory commercialism to monetize and grow this beast. We have settled We have a state that fears backlash and people that lack the capacity to make discerning choices about the origins of so-called facts. The trap is set. Recently, I was told that the human being lacks the ability to avoid poor choices until the brain gets to about 25. This is the reason why we are in a dire social cultural nexus with the mobile phones and trash ideology creation connected to our youth when they can least resist and be critical. How do we put the genie in constraints when there's no incentives or credible moderation from our leaders? Any thoughts, guys?
How to put the
It's
G
not easy. That's the first thought. Um, what the social media landscape should look like is so radically different from what it does look like that you have to transform everything. Like you talked earlier before we started this about Australia's media ban on 16-year-olds. That's a very crude, broad brush approach to it. I don't agree that 16-year-olds should be banned from social media. It just should be designed to not manipulate them the way it does. Um, Under 16, perhaps you're limited to how many hours a day you can get on social media. So many hours, 1 hour a day on Facebook, 1 hour a day on Twitter, or something like that. Content has to be moderated that younger people don't get to see some content. They're just some examples of the rules that are needed. And in many ways, they're the rules that apply to traditional media. We would have rating systems for movies. Where's the rating systems for video feeds?
None,
That
none,
no,
none. So where's the validation of any of truth or reality that can be, you know, put out there? Where's that for any of this stuff? Anybody can say anything they want. All of this could be total bullshit. I hope it's not, but someone could say, "Oh, that crowd of people, they're idiots. They're just making it up as they go along."
yeah.
And
And you now have a situation with social media where single individuals can put things up. They don't have to go through a filtering process of getting a whole bunch of other people to agree with what they're putting up. Traditional media, it was never just one person. There were editors and other reporters and the board of the TV company or whatever. So there was a moderation process. Now there isn't.
yeah, I think one of the key things that you've pointed out is the fact that there's no real restraints, and it was designed from a commercial standpoint to broaden or democratize using nice words, access to the public. But the way it is done is you can say any damn thing you want, any bullshit you can sprout, any creed, whether it's harmful or not, can be brought up, discussed, and put in a lot of people's faces.
That's one aspect of it. That's the misinformation thing, the role of unvalidated opinions in politics and science and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But there's another whole dimension to it, which is it's like an addiction to us just putting up, they now call it internet slop.
Mhm.
People are just throwing up shallow, petty stuff in humongous quantities just to be noticed.
Yeah, I was talking to my partner about that just in the car. I was saying, you know, we have all a need to be viewed or to be adored in a sense. But, you know, all these people going on holidays or going away and doing or whatever, and all of it goes on to Instagram and Facebook and because of that need, not because
Mhm.
it's something that's important. And what part of that need is generates the tourism that makes people go out there? It's why aren't we doing things for its, for the thing rather
Yeah,
than to
rather than
publicize
just to
it?
be seen. Well, I've spoken to you guys about this in the past. I've been looking at traveling to Europe. One problem in Paris and many other cities is that various social media influencers want to recreate an image that was on TikTok. So
Yes.
they're standing around in the streets posing to create the perfect replica of what someone else did.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the locals in Paris are going, get out of here.
Exactly.
It's so fake.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that I was away last year, and you see that exact, not perhaps not everyone posing. Everything was about posing.
Mm.
Nothing was about reality. Nothing was about, oh, isn't this, you know, historic or whatever. No, it's about I've got to be in it.
Mm.
Is that the
And
Andy Warhol 15 minutes of fame that people chase?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think what Andy Warhol meant is regardless of who you are and where you are, you will find that you will have 15 minutes of fame simply because of the person you are, rather than everyone needs to chase that 15 minutes of fame forever, every part of their day.
Well, that's what it's become now. With these Instagram moments and ripping off classic images again and again and again, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it has become that. But one of the things I think is, instead of the constant complaints, I think we need some ideas and some actions that could change this. I would say, for example, um, about the verification and control, I would say that the social media companies need to do something like the Wikipedia thing, where with Wikipedia basically is here's the source of truth. I don't know whether it's absolute or not, but we'll not let that sit there and be truth unless other people have come and validated, other people have put in content that validates it and enhances its
mm,
value. I think social media could easily be changed, not easily perhaps, but could be changed. So it tagged everyone that was involved, forced those tags to be real people, right? Secondly, it basically would force people, those people who added to it, to be vetted.
yeah,
Not just hey, anybody can do this. Anybody can do this, but you've got to basically have a credibility score. And your credibility score appears whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, things
things
like
that we
that.
can
Like
do.
I've done a few little things on Wikipedia, and the talk pages where everyone discusses editing the articles can get a little bit vociferous, and
Yeah,
that's probably a fairly healthy thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't say you can't disagree with people, and there must be avenues for that. But when you put something up, when a world leader like Trump puts something up, it should be fact checked. It should, you know, he should not be able to put in any feed stuff that is absolute rubbish without people saying this is absolute rubbish and it being viewed by everybody.
There's another aspect to it, which to me is quality versus quantity. Social media now, and particularly with the growth of AI, now lets an individual or small group churn out content, huge quantities of it. That's not very good quality, but they flood everything with it.
So,
An example of that I saw just recently was on my YouTube feed. I just had this video of a black bear coming up on the veranda threatening a toddler, and the cat attacked the black bear and saved the toddler. You think
fake.
one off, oh, that's novel, until you start getting 50 of them, almost identical.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there, there's somebody churning those things out. We need to put restraints on that sort of activity. That excessive quantity stuff is just as damaging as the quality.
Mm, mm. I mean, we're talking about uh, quality in terms of being able to discern whether something's real or not. It's no longer something that's possible. We have got uh, tools. I refuse to use the word AI because everyone uses the word AI. We've got tools that basically do that for us. Create fake images, right?
Yeah.
And
Um,
fake
you
content.
like in the old days, you'd have a watermark on a photo or something like that. You may not want that if you wanted to try to create something that looks real, but you should be able to click on it in some way, and behind it, there's a watermark. It
Yeah,
says
yeah,
this was
yeah,
created by AI.
yeah. One of the other things around that is one of the reasons why I kind of like the idea of blockchain was because every one of those transactions could be traced to an individual,
Mm-hmm.
right? And therefore, you had provenance built into it.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Social media needs some of that.
well, that has to extend out to all tools that are used by social media. So if you use an AI, it would force its provenance onto it. It would then show you that, oh, this was made by an AI.
Yep. But this is just a more recent manifestation of something that's been going on for a lot longer. Um, we've now got AI. Prior to that, we had social media. But you'd go back to when we were children. There was this thing called the advertising industry.
Yes,
Every ad you've ever seen is fake.
yes.
So this is the progression of that. In the past, there was people who were paid to create fake things like, oh, look, there's a pretty woman running along the beach. Therefore, I want to buy this can of soda. What's the connection? But it works. Psychological manipulation.
Hmm.
Then we've grown, and now social media emerged. It became more powerful, and now AI is making social media 1,000 times more powerful. But we've got to
A,
recognize it's the
a
same progression.
thousand times more dangerous, a
Yep,
thousand times more pernicious.
yep,
Um, as I said, human predilection for fakery, telling stories, making things up, is not something I want to remove.
no,
It's part of enjoyment when you tell a long story or you do things that are is outside the scope of things. But if you know it is a story, if you know it is fake, um, you need to have those tools when you don't have the ability to discern the difference. And when you have people who are at an age where nothing is fake, it's the wrong time to
Yeah.
introduce tall
Well,
stories.
that's what the setting the threshold at 16, which the Australian government has done, is around the right one. That's sort of mid to late teens. You're not fully mature, but at least you've started to learn to think. A 6-year-old,
Yeah,
they'll just take in what they see.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and they tell pretty good stories as well
Mm.
when they can. But it's later that you realize how everything fits in or doesn't fit in. And it was really interesting to me. There's a program on the ABC that basically talks about parenting, and one of the first things that they dealt with was the phone. When is the right time to introduce a phone? Most families basically introduce a phone at the age of uh, you know before 11 at this stage.
Mm.
But if your brain doesn't really become critical to its best position to be able to say, no, that's not the right thing, as an average at 25, you're starting to create a problem
Yeah.
already. And maybe some of this basically uh, needs to be pushed back onto the the companies that create the social media to address it, you know. And I, I think Albanese did the right thing, taking it to the world and saying we need at least to have a 16, you know, across the board. Europe, you need to do this. All the rest of the people, you need to do this because we're not we're not treating people who've got malleable minds with the right respect.
Yeah. We're we're engaging in one of the largest psychological experiments in all of human history. How much can you manipulate people?
Oh, yeah, we've kind of done that forever, though, you know.
We have, but we keep ramping up, arcing up the experiment. Madison Avenue did it decades and decades ago, but now we're doing it even more.
Now it's on a mass scale.
Yeah.
Um, you know, be it strange to say, I would say some part of that fakery was about religion. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person, but I see religion as one of the things that has caused is a line in that sand in that particular space. Religion basically got you to believe stuff that was helped society, but
Poses an interesting question. Is there a trait in human nature we might call religiosity, a predisposition to accepting religions? And does that correlate with a predisposition to seeing other unrealities as real?
yeah.
I've no idea. It's just an open question.
What do you think, Con? Is our reliance on religion basically the people who basically are religious, are they basically following a human trait?
Yeah, well, it is human behavior, of course. It's and we don't like it, but it is human behavior.
So
The
is this do we just throw it away and say, hey, it's just too late? We shouldn't have actually ever existed. It's stuff. This the way we are going
it
is
is
how it
true.
is.
So a friend of mine's got two 10-year-olds, and I said to him, "Oh, what are you going to do with this ban coming up?" He said, "Oh, I don't let the kids log on to that crap anyway. They don't touch it." So it's more a parental thing that you should be able to talk to your kids and basically say, look, you're not looking at that crap. I don't care. I don't care what they're doing at school. I don't care what your friends are doing. You're not looking at that crap. Bang, you bang. You're like he physically um, blocks the software. So they've got tablets, they've got phones, but they can't access that stuff. And you know, it's moderation and content control. It's what the Americans would scream censorship. And you know, you have to.
So should that actually be happening at a government scale?
Yes, or more to the point, governments should be forcing the social media companies to make sure all that's in place.
So it doesn't actually have to be a parental thing.
It needs to be that the parents aren't pushing a rock up a hill all the time to make it happen. Needs to the default is at this age you can't get access to that unless your parents give you permission to get access to it. Reverse
Oh,
the onus.
uh,
Haven't
uh,
hasn't software always had permissions and parental controls?
Yes, and it's purely up to those big media companies, their choice. How's your system work? And the way
uh,
it works at the moment is how they've chosen it because it's a fantastic business model.
Open slather. Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the framework of, business from a perspective of we will try to get the maximum dollar out of this, so therefore we want the maximum audience, and therefore we want to keep it lax.
Exactly. Whereas if you look at how successful those social media companies are, they're the most successful companies in human history, just about.
Yeah.
You could turn around to them and say, you'll make a reasonable profit even with these controls. Don't be greedy, or else we will step in and wind you up and take you apart.
Uh,
The
so
the
so like
antitrust rules need to be wielded a lot more strongly.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I would say that the approach that I would like to see happen is that the companies. So what the Australian government did is basically said, do your best to try to discern how old this person is. And I think it's not about how old the person is. I think it's more about how discerning the person is and critical the person is about truth and untruth. Now, what I think should happen is basically, sure, you can get a machine of any sort, a phone, a computer, whatever, an account of any sort, but you've got to go through a test. And that test happens every year. And that test basically checks and is variable and checks on your ability to discern facts from fallacy. And if you
Mhm.
can't, you're denied because you're not mature enough.
That's a possibility. Um,
Then it's not a matter of what age you're at. It becomes a matter of has this person qualified? And I bet you there'll be 50-year-olds that don't qualify.
oh yeah. There's also the distinction between the ability to discern reality from fakery, which will improve as you get older, and then whether you're concerned about whether it's real or fake. First, you have to discern it, but then we really want people to say, I don't want to see things that are fake. That's the harder part.
Well, I mean, that part I think is harder to police from a perspective that there's people who want to see fantasy. There's people who want to live in an alternate reality. And there's people who are, un well, whether fortunate or not, are in an alternate reality.
Well, think about like we've all been avid fans of science fiction and fantasy reading over the years,
Yeah,
but you seek it out. You go to a bookstore to buy a fantasy novel. You go to it.
yeah.
Now it comes to you in your feed, whether you want it or not. Maybe that needs to be reversed.
Oh, it's going to be
You can go to Amazon or somewhere and buy a fantasy novel or buy an AI generated fake video, but you have to go out and get it yourself. You know where to find it, but it doesn't come to you. That might change things.
Right. So you're talking about a fundamental change in rather pull approach rather than a push approach.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I have learned over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, playing around with, I find that what I'm actually doing is setting things up so that I get pushed stuff that I want to consume. I'm setting things up because I don't have the time to go find all this stuff everywhere because it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, but certainly with the use of AI and search engines, you could put queries into an AI and say, "Find me sites that discuss this topic."
Yeah, yeah. And
That, that
and I
that's actually a reasonable use of AI.
and I think that is whether it's AI or it's I think that's fundamentally what these systems have provided. It's a better way of engaging in the spheres that you're interested in. But the unfortunate fact, it has a lot of other ill consequences.
Mm. But I agree with you. The push model versus the pull model is a big part of it.
Yeah,
Let's go back to Madison Avenue again. Imagine from the moment you're born to the moment you die, you lived your life never once seeing an ad. How different a person would you be? That's just ordinary
significantly
advertising.
changed. Yeah, I can't imagine it in a sense because to a certain extent, everything that people say and do are ads.
Mm.
Like, you talking to me about things that you are doing or whatever often has a level of I am trying to push a particular point or move a certain direction, and that's an ad. You're actually trying to encourage. What we are doing right now is an ad to try
Mm.
to change people's perceptions to get them to move down a particular path. So
Mm.
I would like what Con said, or or you said about religiosity. I think that's kind of a thing humanity has got, whether that's good
Yeah,
or not.
it's a psychological trait we have, the degree to which you are prone to thinking religiously. Maybe part of it is how comfortable people are with confronting something where they don't know the answer and accept that they don't know the answer. If you
Mhm.
can't live with that, you have to start inventing answers.
as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's,
think
for example, is why I don't call myself an atheist. I call myself an agnostic. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I like to call myself an atheist because I find I dislike the uncertainty of it.
So you're religious as well.
Yes, but in the an atheistic approach.
Yeah.
So anyway, now that we've actually hit not only politics and religion and the largest
But but do
problems that
you
we have.
really think a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old cannot bypass the software um, moderation that's coming up in a couple of weeks?
Possibly, yeah. There's some talk of a lot of people suddenly becoming interested in VPNs that might get past it. Who
They
knows?
are so tech savvy.
Hmm.
I've already read that it literally takes them 30 seconds to bypass it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the perspective that we must take is about this being an ongoing approach,
Yeah.
right? Not
So
one that is, oh, you can set a piece of legislation in and it will, it will fix everything. This is about the fact that we are human as a human entity. We have certain problems that we can't address in the right way. And we've used social media in ways that basically are creating a huge amount of discord, creating a huge amount of friction, creating, uh, on a positive side, diverse perspectives. But if we don't start managing the beast, it will definitely eat us.
it already is. It already is. It
Yeah.
is
So,
saying,
I don't believe in the idea of, oh, it's too late. Oh, 16 is not enough, or the kids will get past it. I think we need to start and keep going. I think we need to start pushing back to you know, these um, social media companies and say, right, you're paying for this. You're paying for this until they go broke. If they don't, if they they will find a way around so that they don't go broke, but they need to be paying for the costs of society that they are
But
creating.
there's still a lot that government can do with threatening things like the antitrust laws and breaking companies up. Um,
How do you
Physically,
break
their
someone
infrastructure has
that's
to be in certain
offshore?
places. So, pardon?
How do you break? How do you break? We're in a global space. How do you break?
You can only do it at the national level, but if at the national level, Amazon can't exist in Australia, something else will come in and replace it that isn't the monster called Amazon. And if the key governments around the world coordinate antitrust actions, they can still do a lot.
Yeah, they can, but often politicians are not willing to look like China
Mm-hmm. Well,
in
you don't necessarily
our
have to censor.
so-called
You
democratic
can
space.
achieve a lot just by breaking companies up. Like all the different things that Google does. What if you separated each of its tools into a separate tool in a separate company?
How would you do that? How would you do that in when Google actually doesn't actually exist in Australia?
You'd need coordination with other governments. But if you had the EU, the US, maybe even China,
Well, I
all
reckon
saying
China
the same thing.
has managed to do something quite interesting. They basically you can't get a Gmail account in China,
Mm.
right? Everything's been moved into like WeChat or the Chinese equivalent.
I,
And
I
so
wouldn't necessarily class China using interesting methods of moderation. For them, it's you do it our way or that's it.
Yeah, there's two aspects to what China's shown. One is that you can do a lot to manage the social media space if you choose to, and then perhaps they've shown us the wrong way to manage it.
Well, they don't manage it; they control it.
Yeah. So imagine instead you said to the big social media companies, all your algorithms for what determines who sees what and why, you have to reveal them, and we'll let you know whether that algorithm is acceptable or not. That's an example.
hmm, so
And there's a good justification for doing it. That governments are there to regulate so that business does not totally dominate our society. This is a regulatory failure.
Regular. Yeah. Try and put it back in. Squeeze it back into the box.
all right,
No, just
we'll
say, if you want to keep trading, you've got to redesign how your system works. You could pass
we
laws that say it's illegal to target people in certain ways. We
yeah
have advertising standards, don't we?
yeah we do. We need to do this, um, but we need a lot more people to be listening to what we're saying
Mm,
to be able to get any traction.
yeah.
And this is a start, but I think what I'm going to do at the moment is call this session over,
Yep.
and hopefully we'll do something equally as interesting next time.